All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you guys for being here bright and early, first thing. Excited to talk to you guys today about conversion rate optimization for e-commerce. Quick show of hands, how many of you guys have done any kind of conversion rate optimization on your site? Okay, great. So most of you guys are beginners or trying to get into the game, which is exactly what I was expecting and hoping for. So I'm Dayley. I'm from Smart CRO, and I'm excited to be chatting with you guys today. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm David. Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm David. I'm the director of e-commerce at Selkirk Sport. So been working with Chris for 2 years now on our CRO.
Yeah, so we'll have David give a quick run through about Selkirk, and then we're going to just kind of dive right in to some case studies. We're going to be talking a lot about what you guys can do to find success in improving conversion rates. But you want to give a quick rundown of Selkirk?
Yeah, so we are the #1 brand in pickleball. We've been around for 10 years, started as a small family-owned company focused on growing the sport of pickleball in the early days and product innovation and bringing the best products there. So, our main goal is to continue to grow the sport of pickleball because it's changed our lives and pickleball's amazing.
And I'll put a plug in. If you haven't played pickleball, you guys got to get out there because it's awesome. So obviously pickleball, it's a fun industry. I love working with these guys because it's a rapidly growing sport right now. Everybody's jumping in to learn how to play. So we've had some exciting opportunities to try to maximize conversion rates. So what I want to first do, I just want to give you guys a quick poll here. I'll show you guys a test that we ran for Selkirk and have you guys guess which one you thought performed better here, okay? So what we have is this is a test that we ran in the shopping cart. So over on the left, you have our original shopping cart, which that's what it looks like. And so what we did was we ran one test variation where we added a shipping progress bar. Okay, so when you add something to the cart, it tells you how far away from free shipping you are. So let's get a quick show of hands. How many of you guys think the free shipping progress bar increased revenue? Okay, most people. We ran this and actually dramatically, this test variation dramatically decreased revenue. Okay, failed miserably. Now, if you go to the Selkirk site right now, you'll actually see a shipping progress bar there because we actually tested quite a few other versions of this and actually finally found one that worked. But so if you looked at the show of hands, I mean, probably 75% of you guys thought that this shipping progress bar, easy, was going to increase revenue. The fact that it didn't is one of the reasons that testing changes on the website is so critical. Because you never really know what is going to work and what isn't going to work. So I want to quickly establish a few challenges that you guys might have when it comes to improving conversion rates. And I think David can probably chime in, and when we go through this list, I think most of us have struggled with any item on this list. So the 4 challenges you guys probably are going to encounter. The first one I call the expert opinion. So if you work with a design agency, a development agency, an SEO person, a search person, whoever you're working with, you're going to get a ton of opinions about things that you should or shouldn't do on your site. I mean, I get clients all the time that are like, oh, okay, well, we're scrambling right now because our PPC person said that we need to get social videos on our product page. So we're all heads down right now trying to get social videos on the product page. And I always say, hold on. Why do you want to do that? How do we know that that's going to work? What if you spend the next 6 months gathering all these social videos and it actually decreases conversion rates, right? But the expert opinion is so easy to chase because it gives you what you think is a quick path to improving conversion rates, right? The second challenge is even if you do want to run tests like what we just showed, it's difficult to know what to test or what to change on the site, right? I mean, again, you're going to get a ton of opinions, and I can't tell you how many companies I've worked with that'll say, oh, well, we tested adding this thing to the site and it failed, like, the shipping progress bar. And so now I guess what we're doing right now is working. Okay, so that can be a challenge. I think the third challenge, and this is also sometimes related to number one here, but it's easy to want to just do something big and dramatic. As marketers especially, we want to have something big to show off. We want to have, if you're an employee, it's easy to want to show the CEO something awesome and flashy. If you are the owner, then you probably just want to make a big impact quickly. But I'll tell you, and I'm going to show you here in this presentation, big changes aren't usually what create big conversion rate increases. So, and then the last thing here is a lot of these things do need some amount of design and development resources, right? You need somebody to build these things for you. So those things I think can all be a challenge. Now, I'm going to talk you guys through, and I'm going to address specifically items 2 and 4 on this list. I want to try to make it as easy as possible for you guys to come away from this presentation with some specific things that you can test on your site, and some of them don't require a lot of design development resources. But David, I mean, has Selkirk struggled with any of these things? Like, are these things that you guys feel like you've chased after, or do you feel like these aren't really that big of a deal for you guys?
No, obviously, I think this is a challenge for everyone. Being in a semi-big company, we have 200 employees. Like, there's expert opinions from everyone. Everyone knows what you should be doing. So to be able to back these things by data and have reasons to test, I think that becomes important. We have a lot of design and development resources, so that hasn't been a big challenge for us. But then also, I want to show that I'm doing something. Like, the small changes don't get noticed as much, but they make the biggest impact. So,
well, and what I'll say too, on David's side, even though you guys have design development resources, it's really nice, and we'll talk about this. It's nice if you can test some of these things out before you have to send them to your developers, right? So what sucks is, and you guys have probably all experienced this, you spend a bunch of time developing a new theme, developing a change, it doesn't work, and then you roll it back, and then all that time is down the drain, right? So one of the great things about testing changes before you roll them out is with data, like David was saying, whether or not it's going to work, right? So it's not a gamble. You're only going to develop and implement things that actually work on the site. So I want to talk you guys through, let me just show this real quick. So this is one of the problems with the big change strategy. This is another client, this wasn't Selkirk, where what they were doing was they did a big website redesign, okay? And so what I've marked on here is when they launched their new site design. And so we have, on here, we have the light blue line is the e-commerce conversion rate and the dark blue line is revenue, okay? And so what you'll see is they were on a pretty good trend, right? And when the new site launched, conversion rates slightly decreased and revenue dramatically decreased, okay? So one of the problems that I've seen this over and over. I have probably, over the last 11 years, I've probably tested, I would say maybe 50 website redesigns. Probably 90% of them either perform the same or worse than whatever the site was doing before. So a lot of times you're gonna chase after these big ideas and they actually end up not working, right? So what I wanna talk you guys through here is 3 simple types of tests, okay? This is the process that I use for my clients. And we're gonna go through examples of each of these tests really quickly to show you guys how to implement this. But this hopefully will give you guys some easy jumping off points to improve conversion rates on your site. So,
can I say something on that last slide?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I think an important, obviously we're talking about conversion rate optimization. You can see that the conversion rate didn't really drop that much. And so that's a lot of times not the metric you should be testing for either. Conversion rate it dropped, but not that much, but revenue did. So what is the most important thing? And keeping that in mind, I think, is an important thing.
Yeah, and David and I actually talk about this a lot, where when it comes to conversion rates, you guys probably know this, there are so many factors that go into what your conversion rate is, right? I'll usually tell my clients, I guarantee I could double your conversion rate today. What I'd do is I'd shut off all your ads, right? Now you're only getting direct traffic to your site and SEO traffic, and that's great traffic, but guess what? Your revenue's gonna plummet, okay? So what we're not necessarily looking for conversion rates to always be going up and up, especially like in Selkirk's case, when you're scaling as a brand and you're getting a ton of new visitors, people are exploring pickleball, like you're gonna get a lot of window shoppers. And so you're not trying to convert everybody, but what you are trying to do is be improving revenue, right? So when you see something like this, a big drop in revenue after a redesign, that's a problem. Even if you're getting the same number of conversions, but they're buying a lot less, that's not good. So the three types of tests, and I call this my 3-step testing process. These are really like 3 different types of tests that you can run on your site, okay? So the way that I'll explain this, the first type of test, or the one that I've called step 1 here, is what I call the existence phase of testing. This is where you're actually gonna test removing things from your site, okay? The purpose of this is to understand with data, is what we're doing right now working? And if so, what are the things that are working well? And are there any things that we should get rid of? David and I talk about this a lot, where it's like, well, you don't know what you don't know, right? A lot of times you'll just put stuff on your site that you think makes sense, and then when you actually get into some of the data, you realize your customers actually don't like some of the things that you've done. So step 1 is really intended to get data around everything on your site. You need to understand, why do we have that video on the home page? Why do we have sale as a menu option, right? We need to know for sure that each thing that we have on the site is actually helping our customers. Then we go into what I call step 2 or exploit type tests. These are like optimization type tests, where we're gonna take stuff that is working, that's proven to work, and we're gonna tweak it, and we're gonna refine it, and we're gonna make it better, and we're gonna try to figure out what exactly does our customer wanna see. And then the third step of testing here, or the third type of test, is what I call an exploration type of test. This is where we're gonna test new ideas, right? Adding new things to the site, new designs, new features, whatever it is. My experience is that most brands don't do step 1 and 2 at all. Most brands live in step 3. Most brands are always, they're just wanting to innovate. What's the next big thing? What's the next idea? What's the next cool thing we can do on the site? What are our competitors doing? Oh, they've got this really cool AI feature. I want to do that, right? However, if you don't do steps 1 and 2, step 3 is almost guaranteed to fail, because you don't understand anything about your customers. You don't know what they want or don't want on the site. And so improving conversion rates is best done when you do all 3 of these. So I'm gonna talk through each one of these individually. Anything you wanna say about this before we jump in? Okay, so let's start with existence testing. And we're gonna go through an example here in just a sec. But with existence testing, really one of the big questions we wanna answer here is, what content should we have on key pages of our site? You want to look at your home page, you want to look at your product pages, you want to look at collections pages, and ask yourself, why do we have these things on there? On the product page, you want to look at and say, what's optional on my product page? Do we have a big call out that says, a big shop pay call out that says, buy in 4 easy installments of $39.99, right? If we have that on there, why do we have that on there? Is it just because that's what Shopify said we should put on there? Is it because we have data? Is it because our designer put it in there, right? On our home page, do we have a video? If yes, why do we have it on there? Is it because we have data showing that it helps promote sales? And so really what we want to do is we want to understand, is everything that we have on the site right now, is it helping, right? A couple of other things that you want to make sure you do. When you are doing these types of tests, you want to be willing to challenge your assumptions. This is something that Selkirk has been phenomenal at, and I don't know, David, if you're the one championing this or if everyone is just down for getting data, but I rarely get pushback from Selkirk on, no, we can't test that. Is that just an organizational thing, or is that you?
A little bit of both. We definitely consider ourselves like data straightforward. Like everything we do should be backed by data, which makes my job a little bit easier there. Also, like I walked into a situation where the site had existed for a few years, changes were made, a lot of subjective decisions, no real hypothesis or reason behind, other than that's what we thought we needed to do. And to walk in and tell someone who felt really good about that that's a bad idea is not an easy situation. So it's easy to test different scenarios and let our customers tell us what they want rather than us being the ones to decide what they should be doing or experiencing.
Yeah, and see, and that's actually one of my favorite things about doing testing is you kind of take the emotion out of it. It's not what does David want versus what does the CEO want. It's really like, what does our customers want? What do they want on the site? What do they buy the most with, right? So what we want to do is we want to get data on how each piece of content we have on our site performs. So let me show you, this is great in theory, right? Let me show you how this plays out in practice. So this is a homepage test that we ran for Selkirk a little while back. And this is kind of how we like to start with any test. We want to start with what I call a business question. This is what do we want to learn from this test, right? So what we started with is what content should we have on the homepage? So what we did is we took, what our hypothesis was is by simplifying the homepage, getting rid of anything that doesn't need to be there, it'll be easier for our customers to find the stuff that they actually want, which will improve, revenue, right? So what we had was, we had our original homepage. Now this is the mobile screenshot. I put it in 3 different shots just because it was a pretty long homepage. So we had a lot of different sections on the homepage, right? We had a new arrivals section, a collection section. We had a section called Gear on Your Level, which showed like beginner, intermediate, and advanced or expert paddles, whatever. I can't remember what they were called. I can't see it on there. A bunch of stuff, right? See what paddles the pros use, etc. And again, to your point, David, I think this was just kind of like the best guess homepage, right? It was like, I think all this stuff makes sense to have there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was taking a lot from competitors, other websites, what are other people doing, and this is what I walked into when I started 2 years ago, so.
And again, nothing on here is bad, right? Like you don't look at the homepage and say, oh, that sucks. And that's not my job either. When I come in and work with businesses, I don't ever come in and say, this sucks, because I've run so many tests where we test removing things and everything is helping, right? And so again, the intention here is let's find out how much each of the sections are impacting things. Go ahead, did you want to say anything?
No.
Okay. So what we did is we tested, I think, 5 or 6 different versions of the homepage. Each of the test variations removed one section, okay? So the first test variation that we built just removed the first section, the new arrivals section, okay? So the first thing after the hero banner. We had our second section that removed the next section down, the shop the essentials section. So that was like collections, some of the collections. We had a third version that removed the gear on your level, which showed, again, beginner, intermediate, expert paddles. Had another version that removed this like discover your perfect paddle banner that took, I think, did that take people to a quiz?
Comparison.
A comparison, yeah. And then another version that removed this like see what the pros use section. So, I mean, you kind of get the gist, right? Each of the variations remove one thing from the homepage. These were the results. So these were the top 3 performing variations. So a couple things that I want to point out. Number one is not all of the sections impacted revenue equally, right? Some of them had a huge impact. So when we removed the gear on your level, revenue from the homepage increased by 26%. I mean, it was a huge, huge increase, right? And even removing the new arrivals increased conversion rates by, increased revenue by 14%. So a couple things that came out of this. And one thing I always say to my clients, does this mean that Selkirk has no idea what their customers want? No, right? Like everything on the homepage makes sense, and everything that they had on the homepage was there to help the customer find what they wanted. What we don't know, though, is what is actually going to help our customers, right? Sometimes we put things on the homepage like the gear on your level section may have just been taking people down a rabbit hole or pushing them to products that they weren't actually, that wasn't a good fit for them or they weren't as likely to buy, you know? And so that was one thing that came out of this is, okay, so maybe some of the things we think are helping our customers aren't. It also kind of confirmed the hypothesis that we probably have too much on the homepage. And then finally, one thing that I always say to my clients is, when you have a big increase like this tells us we're getting the right people to the site, right? Because they're really responding to what we have on the homepage. So they're super engaged visitors. We just need to tweak the experience, right? Anything else that came out of this? I mean, was there any hesitation in removing any of this stuff when you went and presented these results?
Yeah, there always is. There's always back and forth. And that's like one of the things where I think it's really important that you're clear before you start a test on what you're testing and why, and what is the desired result from that. I was telling Chris right before this, e-commerce is a small percentage of our total business. And we know that we have a lot of visitors that come to the site while they're in retail to research paddle. So revenue is not always the most important thing, but how people are interacting, are we getting people to the right places, all of those things. So yeah, some of these changes made massive revenue, but it took discussion to figure out what we actually wanted to implement based off of why we were testing these things in the first place.
And in a case like this where you have multiple winners, what we will typically do is we'll take the biggest winner, implement that, and then test combinations of these. Because sometimes you actually will test combinations and they perform worse together than they do individually. And so it is important that you kind of take this one step at a time. And to David's point, you have a discussion about, okay, if we really hate the idea of removing gear on your level, like for whatever reason, we think it's super important, then maybe what we do is we take variation 4 and implement that, and then try combining, you know, the other variations. And so there is, you know, there is room for brand and for brand needs here. But again, at least we have some data around things. Yeah, question?
Sorry, just a quick question on that. So when you ran the 4, did you do all of them at the same time?
Yeah, so we ran all of them simultaneously and split traffic between all of them. That way,
For how long?
I think this test ran for maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
When we're running tests, we'll run them for as long as they need to run. Sometimes a test will run for 2 weeks and we get a huge and very impactful result. Sometimes we'll run them for a month and, you know, we either get no impact or we get whatever it is. So
You kind of just gauge it based on what the results are looking like.
yeah, and we'll get a statistical significance calculation. And so once the results are statistically significant, then it's like, all right, well, that's a clear winner. Let's go ahead and move to the next step. So let me talk about, just in the interest of time here, the next type of test, which is what I call exploit testing, okay? This is, again, where what we want to do is we want to ask exactly what do our customers want to see, right? So where should things be positioned? What should they look like, right? We want to ask, what are all the possibilities? Because usually when we add a feature to the site, we only add it with one approach in mind, right? We only try one idea. And so this is intended to allow us to test multiple different approaches and say, you know, is our cart design the best that it could be? Are there other possible cart designs that we could use, right? And then last thing, what are the most important sections to our customers? Let's focus on those things. That's where the existence testing is really important, right? If we know what sections were super important, then we can really dive into those. So what I want to show is Selkirk rolled out apparel this last year, right? It was this last year.
Yeah.
So this was a new product type for Selkirk. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at the product pages for the apparel products and ask what value propositions do customers need to see, and particularly near the price, near the images. You can see over on the right on this screenshot, our go-to product page layout was product images and then all of the customization stuff, right? So you just jump right into the add to cart stuff right after you see the picture. And again, that was a fine approach. That was the starting approach, but we wanted to see if maybe if we move some of the information that's lower on the page up a little bit higher, maybe that'll help our customers out. So what we did is we tested quite a few different variations here. So one, we took the size selector, which on the previous screenshot, they had all the sizes listed out on the page, and we just popped them under drop down. So this was intended to try to like condense some of the add to cart section. We had another version that moved some of these icons that we had, free shipping, over $55, and 30-day guarantee. Those were down below the add to cart button, so we moved them up so they were right under the images, right? Try to get that information front and center. We had another version that took the drop downs. These were the product details that were down below the add to cart, so we moved those up right underneath the images. We had another variation where we added a new call out, so it said 30-day free returns. It's kind of small in the screenshot here, but 30-day free returns, we put that right over on top of the price. These were the results that we saw. So interestingly, the best performing variation was taking something that was already on the page and just moving it up, making it more prominent, right? So we took the drop downs those were already there. It's not like we added new information. We just took information that was there and we exposed it. We put it right under the images. So instead of going straight from image to add to cart, you went image, product info, and then add to cart.
One thing that I would add on this is test everything, right? Like you look at this, you look at the best performer. We all hear best practices. Your add to cart needs to be above the fold. That's the one that doesn't, and it had the biggest revenue increase. So don't test things just because they're best practice. Don't be scared to test things because you never know what's going to work.
In fact, I've had a lot of clients when we'll run tests like this where they'll say, oh, no, well, we don't want to do that because it's going to push the add to cart below the fold. And it's like, so what? Maybe that's going to be awesome, right? So again, be willing to challenge your assumptions. Anything else on this? So the last type of test that we'll talk about here is explore testing. Really the two big questions we want to ask here are, what should we add to our current site? And then what things have our customers shown that they care about, right? So if you've done the other two types of tests, you should already know, do they care about product information? Do they care about social proof? Do they like more content, less content, whatever it is? If you know what kinds of things your customers already like on your current site, then when you go to add new things to the site, you can add new things that you already know they like, right?
And one thing with that as well, okay, we've done the two other existence, exploit, so we have some information about what our customers like, but talk with your customer service teams. What are customers asking for? Look at your post-purchase surveys. That's what I'm using to determine a lot of our future tests and where we should be testing. Again, just listen to your customers.
Absolutely, 100%. So I'll show you an explore type test. Again, I'm not saying that this is the test you should run, but this is just an example of something that you could test, right? So what we did is we took a look at our mobile site, and what we wanted to ask was, how should a mobile visitor navigate the site, right? So the typical Shopify site uses a hamburger menu to navigate, right? So what we did is we tested some other alternate menu options, not alternate, but additional menu options that were very simple and easy to use. So if you look at the bottom of the screenshot here, there was a little scrolling menu that had 4 options. It was like paddles, apparel, shoes, equipment. And that followed you up and down the site. And so the idea was, hey, this will give a few quick, easy options. It's at the bottom of the screen, so it's easy to click on, right? Whatever it is. So we tested a bunch of different variations like this. We had another test variation here that tested different options down there. We tested another one, more options here, right? This one we added some little product image bubbles to try to add some visual appeal. And then we tested a version where we added that to the top of the site instead of the bottom. All of these variations worked really well, which again, confirmed the hypothesis. The mobile customer really likes this navigation style. They obviously didn't perform equally well. And so, like I said, part of what we want to do here is we want to give our customers as many options as we can so that we can follow the data, right? So bottom line here is what I want you guys to understand are a few things. Number one, testing, it doesn't have, like improving conversion rates, it doesn't have to come by doing big, huge things, right? The biggest revenue increase that we saw in here was removing something from the home page. And those are very easy tests to build, okay? So every one of you guys should be doing tests like this. There are a few easy tools to use to run experiments like this. We use Convert, so all the tests that we've run with Selkirk have been using Convert. The great thing about Convert is it works for any site. Doesn't matter what platform you're on, you can plug it in anywhere. If you're on Shopify, IntelliGems and Elevate are great tools. Both of those work really well for testing. You can test things like pricing of your products. You can test other, free shipping thresholds, whatever it might be. And so definitely want to make sure you guys get out there and start testing and getting data around these things. Anything you want to add, David, or anything else? Any recommendations you'd make? Any things that have been helpful for Selkirk?
You don't know what you don't know. Chris can attest to this. Like, he's been doing this for a really long time. You put together 7 different variations. You go into it thinking you know what's going to work, and we're surprised month over month at what actually works. So just test everything and let data make the decisions. Your life will get a lot easier.
And honestly, it makes your life better. When you don't have to attach your name to one idea, right? Like if you're like, oh, I know that the thing we need is a video on the home page. If you put a video on the home page and it doesn't work, you look like an idiot. But if you go in and say, maybe a video will work, let's try testing it, and it doesn't work, then it's like, huh, interesting, it didn't work, right? So it actually puts a lot less pressure on you as a marketer, as an owner, whatever it is, to explore instead of having the best idea. So thank you guys so much for coming today. Here's mine and David's contact info. Feel free to reach out if you guys have questions, if any additional insights that you have, and we'd be happy to chat with you guys after the session as well. But thank you guys for being here so early today.
Thank you.